Hi and welcome back to the Keep It Bright podcast. Today's episode is all about self-care, and I think this is probably going to be a two-part episode because there's so much to be said and there's so many different types of self-care, not just the physical type, there's just all kinds. So I'm definitely going to probably do a part two to this at some point, but wanted to get started today with just maybe the ways of thinking about self-care that can mean that you implement it more into your life. So I think I covered it a little bit in one of the other episodes, but for me, self-care is not something that's just been like coming naturally to me from a young age or anything. Most of my life have been living in one kind of survival mode or the other, and literally I didn't even have a moisturising routine or anything until about 4 or 5 years ago, which sounds mad to say, but I literally didn't even used to do anything to my skin daily, nothing. Like, I was so caught up in just doing life, in just getting by and getting through the stuff that I was going through, that self-care wasn't something I practiced properly, and it's not something that was part of my daily routine. For me, at those times, especially between the ages of about 21 and 25, self-care just looked like going on holiday, and obviously that's such a luxury. Bearing in mind, if you don't know my story, I'm going to cover my full story in an episode at some point too, but I'd never even been on a beach holiday or like a fun holiday or anything until I was 21. We just didn't have the funds to do that when I was younger, so the only trips I'd been on before I was 21 were just to visit family. So it was amazing to me once I started to be able to go abroad and just go away with friends. I have the money to do that. That was just the best thing in the world to me. So I would work like all day, every day, because I was trying to like provide for my family, be able to keep it bright and actually keep a roof over our heads, pay our bills, all that kind of stuff. And then be able to pay for things like the holidays and doing fun things. So I would literally work from the minute I woke up to the minute I slept. Like, no joke, I didn't, unless I was seeing friends or doing something like that, I literally just worked. Like, I didn't have any kind of healthy routine where I stopped working a couple hours before I went to bed and made time for self-care or winding down. I didn't wake up and do my self-care stuff, then start working. I would just wake up and start working straight away. And I don't recommend that. I mean, sometimes that's just what it takes. And for me at that time in my life, that's just what it took. And because I didn't know about how to implement self-care into my life in a practical way, I just didn't do any. And I didn't realise how much I needed that until I did actually start having a healthier routine. So I only started actually having a healthier self-care routine, work-life balance, or whatever you want to call it, when I moved out of my family home and into my own place, as it just felt like, I guess, breathing room. And because it was a break in my norm, I had the chance to make a new routine. So for me, that's when I started to actually take care of my skin, my body, like just do that kind of self-care, physical side of stuff more. And then when I moved in with my partner, which is about 2.5 years ago, that's when I've been in like the best kind of self-care stage of my life, because living with somebody else who had much more of a healthy self-care routine than me changed how I lived, really. Because before, I was living with my family and we were all in that survival mode. Nobody had a healthy self-care routine in the three of us. We were just trying to get by, and because none of us had one, it seemed okay. And I think that's the other reason why I never really maybe thought there was much wrong with it, because in our little world and in our kind of chaos, none of us had a healthy self-care routine at all, looking back on it. So I think that's why I didn't think it was abnormal or not the right way to be doing things. So if you've been in the same situation, or if you are living in a situation where maybe nobody in your household does have a healthy self-care routine, then it's kind of fair enough if you've not realised that maybe what you're used to isn't the healthiest thing for you either. So then when I moved in with my partner and he was working like 8 till 5 or whatever, I realised that, when he finishes work, that's that. Don't get me wrong, he did have lots of times where he was stressed about work and he would have to work later, or he'd be thinking about it later. But he allowed himself that downtime, and he knew the evenings were for him and that his mornings were for him, because the rest of the time was obviously being given to his job. So I think maybe I need to cover a separate episode which is about self-care for self-employed people, entrepreneurs, things like that, because it's definitely different when you are working on your own time and no one's telling you, right, it's time to go home now, or right, your work day is over. It's hard to create that separation for yourself. But yeah, living with him made me realise, oh, right, he just chills in the evening or does whatever he wants to do in the evening, works on his hobbies, takes that time for self-care, has a bath, whatever it is. And it kind of gave me permission to do the same. And then I started then chilling in the evenings or sitting down to watch something. Because in the past, whenever I would just like watch Netflix or whatever, it would be while I was working. And I always had this like need to multitask and make sure I was being productive, just because of my situation. Like, we needed money, I had to work and I had to make it work, especially being self-employed. I didn't want to have to then get another job. I wanted to just be able to keep doing what I was doing. So I understand, like, I just wanted to give this bit of backstory to say that I understand it's not like I've come from a life of luxury and privilege where I've just been able to look after myself and that's been my priority, because it hasn't. It definitely hasn't. Of course, I imagine what it would have been like if I'd been able to have a better self-care routine all of those years, instead of just kind of burning myself out from the beginning of the day till the end of the day. I'm sure it would have been so much better and felt so much less stressful. I think my most stressful times would have felt a lot easier if I was making time to look after myself daily. And that's what I kind of want to talk about today, is the daily self-care, because for I think a lot of us, self-care can look like those complete breaks of like being away, having a trip away, having a holiday, a break of just no responsibility, of not having to do anything. But if you're saving your self-care just for those moments, like I was for so many years, then what about the rest of the time? What about the day-to-day stuff where it gets too much and you need the self-care, but you're not giving it to yourself? So, for example, during COVID and lockdown times, we didn't get to travel as we normally would travel. So, for example, last year, I didn't go abroad at all for the whole year, which was the first year since I was 21, since I had a choice and since I had my own money, that I didn't go abroad. And in a year like that, where you don't have your normal kind of crutch or the thing that gives you your self-care, it's so important to have the little daily bits that get you through. And I did get to go away. Like, we went to more local places. So we had a few trips to Wales and went to Scotland once as well. And they were just amazing. And it was like a holiday, to be fair. And we'll feel blessed that we got to do that. So that was a holiday. But they're a different kind of holiday, aren't they, to just lying on a beach? But yeah, you can't just wait for those moments to give yourself a break. You have to find breaks in your daily and weekly routine in life. So a couple of points I want to cover today. So self-care is not a luxury, it's a necessity. It is not something that is to be saved for when you at the end of your wits, or when you've had a breakdown or crashed and burnt. It is something that is preventative. It's something that can help us every single day to feel less stressed out or less overwhelmed. And I think that's what's so important, is that it's a way of coping. It's a way of dealing with whatever you're going through. It's not just like a remedy for once you burn out. So if used correctly, it can just help you get through every single day, which is amazing. And I think a lot of the time, the only reason, or one of the only reasons we don't practice daily self-care is because we think we don't have time, or we think we need to do everything else first, and we're at the bottom of our list. I'll do everything else, and if I get time, I will do this bit of self-care. I used to think that way too, that everything else was more important. But actually, what I realised is when I put myself first and when I put my needs first, and then when I make time to do whatever it is that's going to help me feel in a calmer place, especially in the mornings, I found if I start my day with a little bit of self-care routine, even if it's like 15 minutes, half an hour, gosh, it really impacts my mood. It really makes me feel so much calmer, so much more capable, so much less anxious and overwhelmed. So it actually, for me, slows the time down. For example, if I start the day, pick up my phone, just get straight to working, just get dressed, and I'm rushing around a little bit thinking what I need to do in the day, that feels quite hectic, and I start the day just like go, trying to get things done. Whereas if I take, this is just my personal example, obviously it's going to look different for you, whatever it is that you need or want, or whatever makes you feel calm. But if I take some time to properly get ready, doesn't mean I have to put on a full face of makeup, whatever, but properly maybe do a little bit of quick makeup, do some skincare, actually like do my hair, or if I don't have time for that, just having like a shower that's not like super rushed, having something to eat, like more of a chilled morning routine. Even if it might only take me 10 minutes longer, it might only take me 15 minutes longer, but allowing myself what feels like that luxury of just leisurely getting up and making that time for myself does a multitude of things. It starts my day off in a calm mindset, in a nicer mindset and headspace than if I was just go, rush, because that, if you think about it, that's kind of starting your day in a hurry, in a rush, in a bit of an anxious way. Whereas if you show yourself that you can start your day in a calmer, slower way, in a more deliberate, intentional way that serves your needs, then it just feels slower, it feels luxurious, it feels like a treat, and it makes you feel just like you've got room to breathe, like you've got space to just have a moment if you need it. I know we don't all have hours to sit there and starting our day with a bloody fruit platter, and I'm sure if any of you have got kids, your time's even more limited in the mornings. Maybe waking up just 10-15 minutes earlier than you do now and having that 10-15 minutes for yourself could make such a world of difference to how you then handle your day or your stressful morning. So I know nobody really wants to lose out on sleep either, but if losing out on 10-15 minutes of sleep means that you get to start your day feeling calmer and like you're looking after yourself, then I think it's worth the sacrifice or the compromise. The other thing that's so important about self-care is that self-care and self-love are linked. You deserve looking after. You deserve to look after yourself. Just wanted to say that in case you don't feel that way, or no one's ever told you that, or you've never been made to feel that way. Whenever you take time to slow down and look after yourself, to tend to your needs, to nourish yourself, you are telling yourself that you matter. You're telling yourself that you're important and that you're deserving of your own time, energy, effort, care, love, attention. Think about that. When you say, I'm going to do everything else before I look after myself, you're placing yourself and your needs at the bottom of your list. You're saying, subconsciously, you're telling yourself, that is not a priority. Making time for myself is not a priority. That's what you say when you put your self-care at the bottom of your list, or when you think of it as not a necessity of something that you can just do another time. Whereas when you take time, especially at the start of a day, to make yourself feel calmer or in a better mood, or just tend to yourself, tend to your needs, whatever they may be, you are letting yourself know subconsciously that you matter, that your needs are important, just as important as everything else you're going to do today, if not more important, because you've decided to do them first. And I think that's a beautiful thing. It's giving me goosebumps just talking about that, because I think that's so revolutionary in a world where we're told to put everything else first, put everybody else's needs first, put our work first, put just everything else before us. When we decide to put our time, energy, love, care into ourselves, It's revolutionary. We're telling ourselves we matter. We're telling ourselves that we're worth our time. We're worth prioritizing. We're worth our energy. We deserve it. Yeah, full goosebumps for that. When we ignore our needs, we're telling ourselves the opposite. So we're telling ourselves we don't matter, our needs don't matter. So be wary of that, be mindful of that, because what you decide matters and doesn't matter is telling yourself something. So I want you to tell your body and tell yourself that you matter by looking after yourself, because you do deserve it. And time spent looking after yourself, time spent engaging in self-care is time well spent. It's not time wasted. It is never time wasted. It is time well spent. Always and forever, it will be time well spent, because it is time spent nourishing yourself. I'm sure you look after plants or other people or whatever it is you care about. So you deserve looking after too. And you're the only person who can properly look after you. So yeah, you deserve your own bloody time. So please indulge in it. Please give yourself that, because I'm sure you give so much to so many others, whether that's through your work or your family or your friends. You're probably giving quite a lot of yourself to others without even thinking about it, without even questioning if you've got time or energy. You probably just say yes to helping other people all the time. And when it comes to you, you have to do the same. You have to show yourself that same respect and give yourself that same credit of being someone who deserves that, instead of thinking that's something I can do later. So yeah, putting yourself first is important. The analogy of in an aeroplane, you've got to put on your own oxygen mask before you help somebody else with theirs. It's the same thing. Especially if you're somebody who does give a lot of your time and energy to other people, you have to make sure that your cup is not empty. You can't pour from empty. And at some point, that supply is going to run out. The only way to replenish it is by taking time to breathe and look after yourself, by doing whatever it is that you need. So obviously self-care looks different for all of us. Some of us just need a bit of quiet time alone. Some of us need the baths and face masks and that kind of self-care. Some of us just want to binge watch our favourite comfort watch programme, and some of us need a night out with the girls. Self-care looks different for everybody, and I probably can't cover all the different types that there are, but whatever it is and however it looks for you, just try to work a little bit of that into your routine. If you can't go out any weekends this month because you're busy with your kids, then plan something for next month where you get to just go out, let your hair down, and at least having that in your mind that you've already planned a bit of time to do that can make you feel a lot better. As for little daily things, for me, it's things like making time to have a skincare routine. It's nothing fancy. Some days that's just putting moisturiser on in the morning and at night. Other nights it's cleansing, toning, doing all that, putting a nice mask on, like a sleep mask on, and it looks different every day depending on what I can be asked doing. Sometimes it's just having a longer shower and not just having a quick one. Sometimes it's just having a shower because I can't always be bothered to have one. And then obviously there's days where there's time to have a bath or you feel like doing that, and that feels really luxurious to me. Whereas I know there's people who have baths multiple times a week and that's just their bit of headspace and quiet. I personally find that I get quite a bit of like sensory overload some days, like if I've had certain things going on or whatever and I just want to be sat in the bed. I'm actually filming this episode from my bed today and I've got my little lights on and stuff, and if you see any video clips of this you'll see that behind me I've got like a colour changing light which we've put in. It's just like a little light strip, and it was really affordable, and it's just made such a difference because in the evenings when I like to just wind down, I just come sit in bed, I put the light on, just sit in the dark with the light on, like the nice coloured light, and might have some music on, or I'll just start filling in my Keep It Bright diary and journaling like my thoughts for the day and doing my skincare and just having that quiet bit of time. And it's become like my little sacred space of just sitting and having that me time. Behind me, above our bed, I've got these wire letters, and it says "Slow down, lie down," and it's a lyric from a Paolo Nutini song. But I love that reminder as well of slow down, lie down, like just breathe, chill. This is your space to breathe and chill. So if you do have a little bit in your house, like whether it's your bedroom or somewhere where you can associate. It might be the bathroom, because if you like having baths or doing your skincare there, it's nice to have a little zone where you can kind of retreat to and have like 5 minutes and just say, you know what, I just need to go and just be in my space and be in my zone for a bit by myself. For some people, it might look like having alone time. For me, definitely having alone time is really calming and peaceful, helps me get my head together. It might be having a daily walk. That might be your form of self-care, having a quick walk after work or in the morning or at lunch. Your self-care might look like actually preparing meals for yourself, or healthy meals for yourself, or making sure that you actually eat a certain amount of meals a day, because I know some people get so busy that they forget to eat and stuff. That could never be me. I literally fucking love eating, love food. But food related, I am somebody who really doesn't like wasting time making food. I think that might just be the Aries in me. I'm just so impatient. If something takes longer to cook than it does to eat, I just feel like it's time wasted. But that being said, whenever I do then take the time to prepare something like healthy or properly cook something, well, I say properly cook, but I think my version of properly cooking isn't other people's version of properly cooking. So for me, taking the time to actually like chop vegetables and properly make a meal always felt like I was really looking after myself, because that's not what I would usually do. So it can look so different for all of us. There's obviously thousands of other ways that might make you feel like you're taking care of yourself. Sometimes it's giving yourself permission to not do something, to just have the day off, or to have the afternoon off, or to give yourself a couple of hours of just not doing anything. And I think that's important too. It's not always what you do, it's not doing stuff too, and just allowing yourself to just breathe and have that time off can feel like a real luxury, even if you're not doing something with it. There's a post I read, it's by 9 Types Co, I think, on Instagram, and it's called The 9 Types of Rest. You've probably seen me share this on my Instagram before. The 9 types of rest, they've said, are time away, permission to not be helpful, something unproductive, connection to art and nature, a break from responsibility, solitude to recharge, alone time at home, safe space, stillness to decompress. And I think that's really interesting. There's not just one type of rest, because you'll hear people say, oh, I don't like resting, I can't rest. But I think those people probably imagine a different type of rest. They probably imagine just doing nothing. Whereas there's all kinds of rest. There's the kinds where you just need a bit of quiet. There's kinds where you just don't want to be doing something that you have to do. There's all kinds. So I think that's really interesting, and something to bear in mind, that you just might need a different kind of rest than you thought you did. Because sometimes just seeing your friends can feel like rest. It always has done for me. That's been like my time off, just socialising, spending time with friends. That can feel like such a break sometimes from what you're normally thinking about, what you're normally doing. So if you're the same and you love seeing your friends, obviously you can't probably do that every single day, but you could make time to have a little quick WhatsApp chat with them, or to send a voice note, or to maybe have a phone call or a video call. And there's little ways of getting that same fix without doing the full thing if you haven't got time to do the full thing. Like, you might love to go for a spa day, but you can't afford it right now, or you haven't got the time. You could give yourself a DIY spa sesh at home by just having a bath and having a face mask. And yes, it's not exactly the same thing. Put your spa music on, have some candles. Like, it's not the exact same thing, but you can emulate that same kind of feeling in a smaller way, and it'll give you still, it might not give you 100% of that same feeling, but it'll still give you a same bit of that kind of rest you need. So that's something to bear in mind. If you can't do it fully, just do it in a little way. You're going to have different energy on different days, depending on what's going on, depending on hormonal changes, depending on the weather, depending on your mood, circumstances. And it's really important to realise that self-care is going to look different for you on a lot of days, and that just to always be kind to yourself and just be nice and gentle and caring with yourself, because life can be hard enough without you making it harder for yourself. And I'll cover this more in the self-love episode, but life feels so much nicer and better when you're on your own side, looking after yourself, being kind to yourself, being nice to yourself, doing nice things for you that make you feel good. Life can feel so much better when you do that and when you add that in. So never shy away from being good to yourself, because it's such a nice thing that can change how you feel, and it gives you so much. I'd love for you to add in more nice things, more thoughtful, caring things into your day for yourself, and to work out how you can add more self-care time into your days, because you deserve it. You can make time for it, even if it's 5-10 minutes. Just claim that time and do what you can. You wouldn't let your phone battery die repeatedly, so don't forget to recharge yourself too, because you're the most important thing you have, and you always will be. So look after yourself well. That doesn't mean you have to be drinking green smoothies and exercising every minute of your life. Do that if that works for you too, but just at a base level, taking time to take care of whatever needs you have is just so crucial to living like a happier, healthier, mentally healthier life, and just feeling better. Anyway, like I said, this is probably going to need a part 2, because I feel like I've only covered the basic foundation of self-care there. But I hope that you found this episode useful, and there was bits in there that you will hopefully take on board and implement into your life. I hope you have a great day or night whenever you listen to this, and I'll catch you in the next one.